Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. Happy Show Tuesday, number 134, coming to you live from Tokyo and Fukuoka, Japan. Let's start with a Kanpai here. What's in your glass? Put it in the
Kanpai.
comments. How you doing? Good morning.
Good morning.
Happy New Year to everyone, and to you, Steven. How are things?
Good, good. Had a nice kind of restful period from around Christmas to New Year, and Shogatsu, of course, here in Japan. First 3 days of the year are off, so back to the grind today. But yeah, it was nice time off. Got to rest, recover, just kind of set some new habits and start off the year right. I think I'm not doing the 5K per beer. That's gone. Uh, but I've got new habits I'm establishing, and maybe I'll talk about those as I solidify which ones actually become resolutions that I'm going to carry through for the year.
Sure.
I tend to be goal oriented, I think, in how I live my life. So it's fun to come up with something and stick to it and then accomplish it. So at least for me.
So, for those out there who have been following, how many beers did you earn last year?
Yeah, I ran. So my goal was 750 kilometers, which would have earned me, I think, 150 beers, if my math is right. And I passed that in early November, actually. And then I ended up doing 850.3 was my kilometer total for the year, so that earned me 170 beers. I had 3 beers in my beer bank on New Year's Eve, and I did not want 3 beers, so I had 1 beer left in the bank at the end of the year. So I had 169 beers last year,
Nice.
which
169 beers. Okay.
sounds like a lot when you
Uh-huh.
put it all together like that, but for an entire year, that's less than one every 2 days, one every 3 days. So it's not
Yeah,
that
that
many.
would. No, it's really not. It's really
So
not.
it also made me realize that we probably drink a lot of beer, like in a regular year, right? If you count them up, if you just kept track, right?
Yeah,
There's
I mean, I think about my own habits in terms of I'm mostly a one. I'm now on a one beer a day type of thing. It's often my
hmm
starter drink, and I didn't really stray from that too much last year. So I probably was up in the 200s anyway,
hmm
without too much effort.
That's not every day. It's every day that you're going to drink. Is that right?
Yeah, basically.
Gotcha.
I
Okay.
very often start with a beer. And then there are times when I end up in a joint that doesn't really have much of a menu to offer
hmm
in terms of
Yep.
drinks, and then I drink a few beers.
Yep. I've
But
I've been with you a couple of times where you just stayed on beer because there
yeah,
just wasn't anything interesting on the menu. So
but yeah, counting. I think in a normal year I'd be in the high 200s for the year,
hmm
and that's because I don't drink nearly as much beer as I used to.
right, right, right.
Back in the day, I'm sure it was 3 times that.
Sure, sure, sure. Yeah, I know when you're younger, you can put away beer much easier than you can as you get older. I'm a Yeah, and I mean the purpose of that for me was one to force myself to run more because I was running but not very often and not very much. And then the other was to break myself of that beer a day habit. The basically let's cut a beer, right? You finish the
Sure.
workday, you crack one open, and it's a great feeling, right? You get the little bit of euphoria because beer's got a little bit different quality to it than other alcohols, and it's a really nice feeling to finish your day that way. But it's a lot of calories,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so I just decided like if I'm gonna take those calories in, I need to earn them. And so I arbitrarily decided 5K was what a beer was worth.
Mm-hmm.
It's probably less than that, honestly, because I think what's a beer 200 calories, and I think I was burning 400 to 500 calories if I ran 5K. So I was actually net.
Only 400 to 500 calories seems like a bad deal there, doesn't it? To run 5K and only
Yeah,
burn that much.
I think at a 400, yeah, maybe it's around 400. It has to do with your body, your weight, you know what I mean? Like
Mm-hmm.
your age. There's a number of different things that go into it. Like somebody else might burn more calories than I would, just because
Yeah.
of my size. Like you're a bigger guy than I am. I think you'd probably burn more calories to move that body around. I'm not saying you're
Hmm.
fat, Christopher.
Not
Saying you're
yet.
tall.
I'm
You're
working on
you're
it.
you're taller. Um, but yeah, and it's the funny thing is the first year living in Japan that I've actually gained weight. I'd been losing weight each year, year over year, as I established healthier lifestyle choices,
Yeah.
exercising, cycling to work, eating healthier, that sort of thing. And this was the first year I actually gained weight, but my waist size didn't go up. So I think what happened is I built muscle. I think the running gave me more core strength. My legs are definitely
Your
stronger than
legs.
they
Yeah.
were.
Hmm.
So that extra couple of kilograms that I gained, I think was primarily um, was muscle weight. So I don't feel
Hmm.
too badly about that, but I do still have a weight goal that I have not yet achieved. I achieved my first weight goal in 2021, and now I've got a second weight goal that I have. I'm actually gone in the opposite direction again. So I gotta, if I'm ever gonna actually get there, I gotta make some other changes.
Gotcha.
But I'm
Yeah.
not drinking beer any more than I was last year, this year, without having to run. So at least I'm
Well, and
having that.
then I don't think we need to remind people on this show that a decent way to minimize your calorie intake, caloric intake when you're drinking is, of course, to stick to spirits with no additives,
Hmm.
and that is what shochu and awamori can do for you. In
Sure.
addition to the lack of additives, they have a kind of they punch midweight on the ABV spectrum, meaning that you're getting fewer calories per dose per percentage point of alcohol, and
Hmm.
that's really what you're looking for there. Killing a bottle of colorful sodawari. Thank you,
Yeah,
Chris. And we've got a
excellent
good
choice.
comment here from Anagman, who was talking about our most recent the Q&A episode,
Hmm.
episode 50 of the second season of Japan Distilled, the podcast that Stephen and I put out a couple times a month. And we're thinking about season 3 right now, of course, and planning and scheming. The Q&A session was the closeout of
Hmm.
season 2, and we hit a bunch of questions from listeners from all over the planet. And Anigman says we didn't mention Horizon, which is a fair call.
Hmm. Yep.
I guess the reason why, just without having any time to think about this, really is, for me, Horizon is not an entry level rice shochu. It's more of a drinkers, like a
Hmm.
spirits connoisseurs rice shochu, because it's atmospheric distilled, and it
Yep. Yep.
it has
Exactly.
so much depth to it. So that,
Yeah.
for me, because of my experience with the much lighter rice shochus of the world, I just wouldn't have naturally gotten there. I don't know about you
Yeah.
on that.
Yeah. No, I think it's a fair question. Also, I'm not sure where they are outside of Georgia. So if you're talking about the South, because you say in the southern United States, I don't know
Hmm.
where else in the South they're available other than Georgia, because that's where it's made.
Sure.
But yeah, and I think we thought about it, I think probably more as a beginner anywhere. We wanted to make the answer more general. And also just, we really didn't script our answers at all. In fact,
No. Yeah.
you and Rich hadn't even seen most of the questions before the episode. I put them all into a document so that we could see them, so I had a chance to think about things here and there.
Hmm.
But I also didn't remember what order, and Rich shifted orders a little bit as well. So, we really were doing that off the cuff, and so apologies to Horizon. You're a lovely, lovely, as Christopher said, spirits connoisseurs shochu, and but yeah, it wasn't something I would have thought of to offer as an option for somebody just starting out. On the other hand, I feel like if you're a mezcal fan or
There's
a,
nothing
a
nothing that's
bourbon
gonna
fan, then
confuse you there. Yeah.
Horizon's a great call.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think you're right.
it's a really really interesting drink. I'm really impressed with what those guys have done, and I'm curious what they're going to come up with.
Yeah. Chris Caldwell agrees. Horizon really surprised me, to be honest. Not entry level. I agree. It's an adult's rice shochu. They don't call it a shochu,
Hmm. Like
which,
Koji
hey,
Spirit,
koji,
American
yeah, rice
American Koji
koji.
Spirit. I've got
Yeah.
the I've
I
got
got
a
a bottle
bottle of
right
it here
here.
somewhere.
Yep.
At least I did. Oh, there it is.
Yep.
Yeah,
America's rice koji.
American Rice Koji Spirit.
Yep. So it's a little bit of a shout out to Horizon right here. This is a very nice rice shochu. They don't call it a shochu. It is a shochu.
Mhm.
We've double and triple checked with their processes, and
Yep, yep,
definitely that's a vote yes from us here
yep.
at Show Tuesday. We are
That's
fans.
right.
I've got
Really good.
the ticker tape on the bottom of the screen, so
Yeah.
um, episode
Yeah. We,
50, please listen. Let us know what you
yeah.
think.
Yeah. We actually put out 2 episodes within a week for the first time because we were late on the Furusawa episode, and then we wanted to get that episode 50 out by the end of the year. So we'll have another one coming up probably next week, approximately. Just looking at the calendar. Um, but it's yeah, we're gonna shift shift things up a little bit again. Just keep exploring and got some interesting ideas. And one of the things actually Christopher and I were talking about yesterday is we've got a bunch of distilleries we need to visit, um, to
Yeah,
interview and talk to them and get to know more about their processes because we love their drinks, but we've never been to them and we want to know how they're made. We want to know what's the man behind the curtain doing,
yeah,
making things so good.
exactly,
So, and I think we'll
exactly.
talk about one or two of those brands as we get into the main topic here.
Yep.
So
And the main topic today, if we I don't know if we have any booze news. That's the next one on the ticker,
I've
not on
been
the ticker, but
yeah, I've been so away from media, social media, everything over the last week. I'm not even sure if anything's been in the
nothing's
news.
really broke recently.
Yeah.
There hasn't been any big news coming out.
Actually, I did get, you know what? I signed up for Google Alerts and I almost never look at them. And I had a Google Alert, I think. Let me see.
Mm-hmm.
Let me see what it told me. Oh, here it was. There was a Google Alert. Oh, there's an article. I forgot about this. I did read this. Japan Forward, which is a website I'd not heard of
Oh,
before.
right.
There was a pretty nice piece on the attention that Japanese shochu is getting overseas. So let me share my screen here.
Okay.
And I was impressed by this. You know, you and I often read these articles. And we're like, oh, they should have talked to us. They got this wrong. They got that wrong. That sort of thing. And I felt like they did a really nice job.
I kind of get the impression that these are translated articles, but
You might be right. Yeah, I
yeah.
kind of like the headline too. It says keyword fruity. The latest trend
Yeah.
in Japanese shochu attracts attention from overseas. Chris was mentioning colorful sodawari. That's one of the fruity styles of shochu. I get a lot of mandarin orange and all different sorts of tropical fruits in colorful.
Mm-hmm.
It's not what we would consider a classic sweet potato shochu. It doesn't have that emo funk that Christopher and I know and love, but it's a beautiful drink and it plays so well with soda, and that's part of what's happening here. Now, what's really interesting is this really gets into the the blight, the I guess it's called foot rot disease that's been killing the potatoes and how bad the tonnage is down.
Yeah.
Right, so 2021 was the lowest on record. 190,000 tons were harvested, down 24,000 tons from the year before. And you can see this is what's happening to the potatoes when they rot. It's pretty devastating. You can't really make shochu from that.
Yeah.
And then they've been working on these new, I guess the National Agricultural and Food Research Organization has developed it's called Michi Shizuku, a new variety resistant to the disease. Wakashio Distillery down in Shibushi has been losing out, and they're planning on making a big move into this new potato. And from all accounting, from at least according to this article, it's bringing back that it has the same expression as a Kogane Sengan. At least it's not that different
Mm-hmm.
for taste and aroma. So it might be that we don't even notice the shift.
Mm-hmm.
So, um, and then COVID-19, people have shifted to home drinking. So they are saying that has opened new sales channels, but shochu sales were still down 5.5% in 2021 over 2020.
Mm-hmm.
So 2020 was an awful year for the makers because of COVID, right? All of the bars and restaurants in Japan basically stopped serving drinks. So going down 5.5% again after that, that's not good news for the industry here in Japan. And then it finishes on the positive note of these fruity flavors. Talks about Dayame, which is a brand from Hamada that has this lychee uh, component. Then there's Wakashio with their Glow series, which is very limited. There's our friend Julia Mamose,
Yep.
and she was visiting Hamada. And then the story about bartenders coming to the states and from the
Yes.
states to Japan to learn about these drinks and how that was a big push by several prefectures this year. So Yeah, it was a good,
I
good little
yeah,
arc.
it wasn't though. It was the JSS, but yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
sure. Yeah.
uh, but yeah, I mean, they obviously had buy-in from a few of the distilleries down south, and then they had a big event at that hotel in Toranomon at Bar
Mm-hmm.
Edition in whatever the
Mm.
hotel is called. I can never remember, but um, yeah, it's I question those 2021 numbers. I think that might be a
Yeah,
bad translation.
yeah, could be.
Um, I think they might have messed up the move from A to B there. And
Okay.
another thing that makes me feel like
So you
that
think it's
website is just is kind of a Japan. Um, it
translate
seems like it's
translation?
translated is because there was a banner on the right side while you were showing talking about modern whaling. So I was like, okay, there's a lot of propaganda here.
Oh, whaling
Um,
today. Yeah, look at that.
yeah, whaling today.
Yeah.
So yeah,
All right. So
I can't imagine they just have all of these writers coming in and writing
sure.
all this fresh news content. That's a lot of people and a lot of time.
Yeah, but that's
So
it. I liked the kind of business summary, the year in review, even if were some possible translation errors. But I kind of like that it targeted these kind of the highlights. The blight obviously is a big issue. The
yeah, yeah,
fruity expressions are helping COVID-19 changing drinking habits globally. And then yeah, there has been they were bringing bartenders over again, that's the first time that's happened since pre-COVID. So
yeah. And
it
they
was a
did two different waves of it too. It
it
was
was a bunch of
two
people. Yeah.
groups. Yeah, there
Yep.
was a more international group, and then I think the second group was like they had Takuma Watanabe and Julia Momose on the trip. That one was a more U.S. centric group,
Hmm.
slightly
Hmm.
smaller group, I think.
Okay.
So yeah,
Yeah.
it is good that it's nice that the powers that be are starting to use a little bit more of their resources to focus on shochu and awamori. The sort of a slight it's better late than never is what I have to say about it. It would have been nice if they had been doing this years and years ago,
Hmm.
and they were on a very limited basis. But if it
Yeah.
had been the type of thing where they're not only doing this, but then they're pouring money and resources into events
Hmm.
and massive competitions and doing master classes and all of these things, and it feels like now they're like, okay, there's a wave forming, and we need to be there with this wave. Yeah,
Yeah.
welcome to the party.
Yeah. No, and that's so true because I was on a couple of those tours from the States with bartenders. So that's how I met
Mm-hmm.
Frank Cisneros. That's how I met Pam Wisnitzer,
Mm-hmm.
a number of well-known bartenders. I mean, Frank was already using shochu, was already into shochu, so he was preaching to the choir. Pam, I by all accounts had a lovely time on the trip. She never used shochu in a cocktail,
Uh-huh.
right? She shortly thereafter stopped actually bartending as a like she's now doing consulting. So, but I still don't see her doing anything to promote the category, despite having been brought to Japan, right? And
Yeah.
that's not necessarily her fault. I think it's just a lack of follow up, a lack of creating an environment in which there are opportunities for her to do things like teach a master class or
Mm-hmm.
you know go to the and she was the U.S. Bartender Guild president
Yeah.
at the time,
She had
right? Like,
extensive reach.
yeah, she had opportunities to make it happen, and she didn't. I hope that doesn't sound like a criticism of Pam. I think
No,
she's a
no, I think
lovely
I think you're
human.
totally right. I think it was what's the word? There was an end date to this entire effort, and once
Hmm.
it was done, and there was no more communication with these very important stakeholders that
Hmm.
had the platform, the reach. It was their job to do this sort of thing, and there just wasn't the follow up on it. So
Right.
it was very much a lost opportunity. Because yeah, probably if we got Pam as the third column on this talk right now, she'd be like, yeah. After that, I didn't really hear anything from them about that. All
Hmm.
the and that's like it's Pam Wisnitzer, guys. You got it.
Right. Right.
She's
Yeah. Yeah.
huge,
Yeah. No doubt. No
and
doubt.
so and she only became act during the pandemic with all of the video. She does all of
Hmm.
these very very positive, very musical oriented, like singing and dancing and performative videos that she does all the time on
Yeah.
Instagram, probably on
Yeah.
TikTok too. I'm not sure.
Right.
I'm not on TikTok, but
Well, she basically TikToks on Instagram is what she
oh, is that how
does.
it is? She
Oh, no, no, no.
repurposes those videos.
No, I have no idea. What I mean is like she was doing what TikTok became on Instagram
I
long
see what you mean.
before I saw much TikTok going viral.
Gotcha. Yeah, no, I
Yeah, yeah,
think you're
yeah.
absolutely right about that.
Yeah. No, and they're
But
fun.
yeah, so
She's puts herself out there. She's clearly like, you know, comfortable in her own skin and willing to be silly and
yeah.
quirky and that sort of thing.
Oh
They're
yeah.
fun. They're really fun.
Yeah.
So,
So the question now with this new trip, these two trips that came over recently, is what's the follow up? What's
hmm
the? I mean, that
Yep.
you had legit 10 very well known. I mean, they brought Kenta Goto over here. He has two
hmm
bars in New York.
Yep.
And what is the follow up? What
hmm
is now with a person like Kenta Goto who is from Japan? I don't know if the follow up is quite as important, but when you're talking about like some of these other bartenders who maybe it was their first trip to Japan, or
Sure.
maybe they don't have as firm of a connection with suppliers, JSS, regional guilds, Jetro.
hmm hmm hmm
What's being done there? What's the game plan to engage these folks, to give them the resources that they need to make sure that they have everything to be confident to be an evangelist for the category? And that's where my confidence dips quite a bit in
hmm
terms of the follow up. I'm worried that there's not a concerted effort in place that's medium term to long term to make sure that
hmm
these relationships continue to grow, continue to prosper, can invite them back again.
Right.
But it really is about the relationships, and if you
Yeah.
don't
And
cultivate those, then there's no
you
point in bringing people over from the start.
you meet with JSS much more than I do, so you should probably have that conversation with them at some point.
Yeah, and I have. Believe me, I have. I drop these things all the time.
Yeah.
And
You're like that.
fortunately,
You're like that splinter in somebody's shoe. It's like the pebble in the shoe, right? You just.
uh huh. Well, they and I'm very I'm tongue in cheek about it, and I don't go in guns blazing or anything, but I'm just like, guys, what, you know? Yeah, I do a lot of these, like, really? And
Yeah.
they're like, what do you mean? I'm like, well, how do you think about it from this perspective? They're like, oh yeah, okay, that's
Yeah.
a good point.
Yeah. And those
But then
people have.
again, having said that, it's a very big organization with a hierarchy, and decisions are not taken lightly or quickly. So
Right.
that's
Right.
another
Right.
challenge, you know.
Yeah.
It's
As we sometimes say, it happens at the speed of Japan.
Yeah,
Right. So.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And with that, we're already 22 minutes into this, and we haven't even gotten to, that was a rabbit hole right there. Damn.
Well,
Let's talk
it's
about
good
the
to.
main thing here today, huh?
Yeah,
You want
and
to
this
do
sort of
that?
ties into it a little bit, right?
It
We talk
does.
about the
It does.
professional
Absolutely.
bartenders coming to Japan. Now we're
Yeah.
talking about Christopher and I had a little brainstorm. As I think I've said on social and probably on the show before, last year really was a year of the cocktail for me. Cocktails were a blind spot for me for a long time, and as Christopher said, shochu is one of the lowest calorie spirits. Shochu and awamori, right? When you're drinking them just without any additives, you're basically just getting the calories from the booze, and they're low proof. So in that way, they're healthy. Once you start adding sugar and other things, then they're not so healthy, right? Cocktails can be high calorie, but it's also a great way to introduce people to these drinks and a new way to enjoy them.
Yeah.
And I'd for a long time, even though I wasn't much of a cocktail guy, I'd go into these cocktail bars, and I remember I gave Shingo Gokan. I was probably one of the first people to challenge him, at least in the States, to challenge him with coming up with a shochu cocktail, especially for sweet potato. It's got so much body, so much aroma. It could clearly play really well in a cocktail. And the first time he tried to make me one, it didn't show the shochu at all. He
Right.
hid it underneath chocolate and sugar, and I couldn't taste the sweet potato shochu at all. And he's using a 40%. The was it what is it called? Kurodashi Genshu, is that right?
Yeah,
From
that's the
Satsuma
one from
Shuzo?
Satsuma. Yep.
Yeah, yeah. And that's 40% ABV, and it couldn't show through with all the other ingredients he added. And
Mm-hmm.
so it had remained in my mind like I want to find those cocktails where the shochu shows through. The beauty of the shochu, the aromas, the flavors come through and integrate with the other ingredients, right?
Yeah.
And so many classic cocktail mixtures are bitters and amaros and other liqueurs from Europe. right? So it's not a natural fit for Japanese ingredients to go with European ingredients, basically, right?
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
when you're
yeah.
talking about all the herbs and things that are used, like it's kind of the funny thing for us with Japanese gin is virtually all of the juniper is imported to make gin in Japan,
Yep.
right? There is not native juniper here, and so why are you working so hard to make local botanical gins when you have to import your juniper, right? It's coming
Mm-hmm.
from Macedonia or whatever. And so I think that was a little bit of a barrier when it comes to shochu and cocktails, but I realized just in my own experimentation, I spent a lot of the pandemic learning how to, well, I knew how to cook because I'd spent a lot of time in my friends' kitchens in New York, just hanging out and listening to them and talking to them and helping out now and again. You know, I was cutting pickles in John McCarthy's izakaya and, you know, that kind of thing, or making pickles, I guess. And, so I really applied myself to home cooking, right? All of my favorite restaurants were closed. I needed to eat good food. So I just put my back into it. And I decided in 2020, I did that in 2020. So I decided in 2021 to start to learn how to make cocktails.
Mm-hmm.
And I haven't had the same level of conversations with bartenders as I've had with chefs. So it was a lot of self-learning. It was a lot of reading. It was a lot of, you know, watching YouTube videos to see how people build drinks and that sort of thing. And just it was a revelation to me that you need to let your ice sweat a little bit before you start to build the drink. I thought you wanted that ice as cold as possible, so I'm dumping ingredients in as soon as I got the ice out of the freezer, and that's not the way you do it, right?
Mm-mm.
Because you don't get the right dilution and all this sort of thing. So I really started trying to make cocktails at home and just paying attention to what bartenders are playing around with shochu in the States, because that started to happen, where you'll see different riffs on classic cocktails with shochu. And I think we've talked before about the colorful Negroni, right? Where you use that colorful shochu that Chris was drinking today. You put that in a Negroni instead of the 1-1-1 for your gin, vermouth, and amaro. You use a 2-1-1 because the shochu is lower proof, and that colorful shines through beautifully. It's a
Mm-hmm.
really really pretty drink. Um, and so to I started to try to expand and use other put shochu into other drinks, especially drinks where gin is involved, because that seems like a good gin replacement because of the aromatics, especially with these new fruity styles. And
Yeah.
the one that I worked on over the Christmas holiday and actually into the New Year has been the Alaska, which was
Mm-hmm.
a cocktail I honestly had never heard of before until I think Brian Evans, bartender at Hotel Chelsea in New York, suggested it as a potential for shochu. In fact, he
Yeah.
might have even made a drink with it. And it's a simple drink.
Yeah.
It's
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 three
uh
ingredients.
yeah, it's your base spirit. So classically it's old Tom gin, yellow chartreuse, and bitters with a lemon twist. It's very
Yeah.
simple. Uh, and I was like, all right, let's try that with sweet potato shochu. And with every single sweet potato shochu I've made it with, it's beautiful. As long as you get enough shochu in the drink, all of that, all the botanicals of the chartreuse don't just crush it, right?
Uh-huh.
Because yellow chartreuse is the easier of the chartreuses. It's 40% alcohol. The green chartreuse is 55% alcohol. That's more of a sipper, I think. This is the one you use for cocktails, and it's got a bunch of botanicals in it, and so it's just very, very aromatic. But if you get enough of the shochu in the glass, then it starts to integrate, and you start to bring through a little bit of the body and the flavor and aroma of the shochu over the top or in with those botanicals. And with the orange bitters is the bitters you use, and that gives it a fruitiness. So you get the bitterness from the botanicals, you get the fruitiness from the orange bitters, and then you're getting whatever the shochu is contributing, right? And
Mm-hmm.
with colorful as the base shochu, it just became this orange flavored cocktail. Right? It was almost
Yeah.
too much citrus, but it still worked. It was nice. And I did it with, I think the first one I made was actually with Yamato Zakura, uh, 35% purple sweet potato
Okay.
shochu. Unfortunately, not available in the States. Uh, and I just used a higher proof to start because I wanted to see what it almost at a gin strength what it would play at, and then that worked quite nicely. But then when I then moved away from the fruity ones because the Yamato Zakura purple sweet potato, if you drink that with soda, like in soda wadi, you're basically drinking what tastes like grape soda, like
Yeah.
from our childhood. That's the flavor profile of that. And so I wanted to move toward the earthier, funkier sweet potato shochu and see how those would play. And I was a little bit worried of going all the way to like a Junkuro, right? I thought that might be a step too far, but I went and I picked up a bottle of Goro. This is where is it? There it is. So this is a Japanese label. This is actually just arrived in the States, and this is, how would you describe this? It's on the
You used the
like
word
in the
chocolatey
spectrum.
before.
Yeah.
It does have this nice, deep, rich sweet potato profile that for
Hmm.
me gives off a there's a sugary component to it that's really
Hmm.
interesting.
Yep. But it's not in the it's not fruity at all, and it's
Not
not
at
in that
all.
really
It's old
it's not
school.
it's but it's also not that funky. It's like so
It's
well balanced, and it's a beautiful drink. It reminds me so much of Rokudaime Yuri, which I always say is my favorite shochu. Sorry, Tekkan. Uh, and and it's made on the same group of islands, the Koshiki Islands. They're
mm,
just different parts of the islands. Only two distilleries there, in Yoshinaga, the makers of Goro, down on the south end. It must be something about the water and the
yeah.
climate that these drinks are so similar. Um, so it's sort of like the little brother to Yuri. That's the way I think about it. Um, and it ended up being a beautiful, beautiful Alaska. Like it was a really, really pretty drink. Now, I went 2.5 parts shochu to 1 part chartreuse
For a 25%
for
alcohol.
25%. Yeah, I was doing like 2 to 1 with Yamato Zakura 35 and with Colorful at 30, and those worked as well. But I knew I had to go a little bit more shochu once I got down to the 25% range,
Hmm.
and it worked really, really well. You lose. I think part of the reason it's called the Alaska is the golden color of the drink, with the gold rush back in the day with Alaska, being a
Hmm.
place where there was a gold rush. It doesn't. You lose. It becomes more straw colored when you go that light on that heavy on the shochu. But
Gotcha.
that's a small price to pay for a really pretty drink. So anyway, there's a very, very long introduction to this idea.
Well,
But go ahead.
and I wanted
Yeah.
to also throw in a little bit in terms of home bartending, home cocktail mixing, to extend this to the awamori realm
Hmm.
because I spend so much time in Okinawa, so I think about this quite a lot. And there are several good cocktail bars down there. I'm gonna share a resource that's online with everybody right now that I think you might want to look into, especially if you are interested in creating awamori cocktails of your own at home. What am I doing? This is not
Oh,
what I wanted.
well, that's fun.
Are you seeing
Yep.
this
Yep.
website now? So
Yep.
they misspelled Kanpai, of course, as some people still do. And if you're out there and you have control over these things, the correct way to do it is Kanpai. Kanpai is like the slangy spelling for it, but it's dumbing it down for people that don't know how to speak the language or at least read and write the language properly. Anyway, this is a website that has been around for a couple of years now, and they do a pretty good job of showing you what is necessary to create some home cocktails using awamori. The one that
Mm.
I think was one of the first that I ever had is this 58 kachasi, which actually in Okinawa, 58 is Golpachi. It's a reference to the national highway that runs pretty much the length of the main island from south to north, from Naha,
Hmm.
from right in the middle all the way up to the northern tip of the island, and then picks up elsewhere in the country later on after going under the sea or something. This is pretty simple. I think the first time I tried this, it was a little more complicated, but I tried it at an event in Naha probably a good 10 years ago. And this, I think, was one of the first really popularized, very simple awamori cocktails that was sort of used at all of these events. But they do have some other ones here. They've got a riff on the mojito, and then it gets into some things that aren't as quite as familiar, like the bungaya over here, which is Ryukyu Ocho Awamori, which of course is available in the States. They've got a fermented pineapple, which they call tepache, and grapefruit and panela and lime all mixed together. The unfortunate thing is they don't give you the instructions for all of these, but that's
Mm.
okay because you
Yep.
can try it at home, and that's part of the fun. It's like creating a new dish, quite honestly.
Mhm.
And so, you take these general guidelines and you bring it into your own kitchen or your own home bar, and you figure out what works. And then when you don't have all the ingredients, then you riff on it. you
Mhm.
you
Mhm.
you work with stuff that you do have or that you do have access to locally, and make it your own and give it your own name. And that's also part of the fun, is creating your own cocktail. And I think that's where we're getting to with all this, the whole
Yep.
cocktail, the home cocktail challenge.
Yeah. 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 And so the idea here is basically, you know, I can sit at home and try to make cocktails on whatever I come up with, but I'm one person with one set of tastes, right? And one style of, no, not one style, but a main style of drink I like. So I think what this is basically a call to action for you guys. It's make some cocktails, start to experiment, come up with some home drinks, and what we don't know how you guys are going to respond to this. We have no idea, right? So
Mm-hmm.
this is just basically let's give this a try, see how it goes. But our idea is if you guys could come up with uh, some home cocktails, and you can riff on a classic or create your own, but send us the details, send us the recipe, the ingredient list, the recipe, like how you build it, and maybe a picture of the drink.
Mm-hmm.
And what we're going to do is Christopher and I are going to read through all of these. We're going to choose our top five. We might play around with them at home, but we're going to choose our top five, and then we're going to go to a bar together and have a bartender that we know make the drinks, and then we're going to pick a winner. We're going to just rank them 1 to 5, and if there's enough input, if we get more than 5 entries, then there might be some second place, third place prizes as well. But we're gonna come up with a nice little gift for the winner. Um, and of course, we'll be promoting these drinks. And what we would ask though is don't make it so that it only works with a specific brand. Do it so that if it's a sweet potato shochu cocktail, it's going to play with different kinds of sweet potato shochu. If it's a barley shochu cocktail, it'll play with different kinds of barley, ideally, because these aren't necessarily supposed to be brand specific. They're supposed to be kind of templates for people who want to make cocktails with their shochu. So they might not have access to the brand that you used, but it should work with other brands. And we may not have
Yeah.
the brand that, the bar that we visit may not have the brand that you made it with. So that's
Yeah,
kind of our idea.
but we do want to know what brand you use. So
Of course.
don't,
Yep. Yep.
whatever. If it's a fruitier sweet potato, then fine. We'll substitute a fruitier sweet potato. We'll
Hmm.
try not to substitute a stock, not a stock standard, but a really earthy sweet potato.
Yep, true. That's
So
that's fair. Yeah, and like if you're
yeah,
gonna make it with vacuum distilled shochu, we're gonna use a vacuum distilled shochu,
yep.
right? So
Um, so
yeah,
yeah, what's the deadline on this? We have a deadline. We actually thought
yeah,
this through.
yeah,
We
we do.
need these entries by March 1st.
Yep,
All
yep.
right. March 1st is the deadline. March 1st, I think, Japan time. We want to whoever's involved, whoever wants to do this, then you need to send us your entry to be considered for this challenge, and for us to go through these. Now, we're anticipating maybe a dozen people at the most will take us up on this, because we know we have a bunch of people watching who love to tinker and who are probably thinking, you know what, I I'm I have this leftover stock that I use, when I make dinner, and I wonder how that would work in a cocktail. And you know what? You should try it and
Yeah.
figure out which ways it complements the flavors of shochu and awamori, because I guarantee there's a way to do it.
Hmm.
And then you just need to figure out, do you need bitters? Do you need to add sugar or simple syrup? What do you need an acid in there? What is it to balance it out? That's the fun of this.
Yep.
This is, you are a chef. Essentially, you are coming up with a new dish. And we've all done it when we try to clean out the fridge before. Now
Hmm.
you're doing it in
Hmm.
liquid form. And so March 1st.
Yeah.
And what we're going to do is, people who, I don't really want to just put an email address out there for people to hit. I think what we want you to do is to reach out to us, and say, hey, I have an entry. And we're
We
going to,
could probably come up with a simple entry form on japandistilled.com, couldn't we?
maybe that's the best way to do it. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Um,
We'll look into that if that's possible. We'll set that up. course, you can also email or direct message us if you have.
I think that's the quickest way is to DM one
Yeah,
of us and say, "Hey, I've got
yeah,
something to throw in here."
yeah. Twitter or Instagram work for that. Uh, don't contact me on Facebook. I will not see it.
Yeah, that's a black hole right there.
Yeah,
So okay, so that I guess those are the basic parameters. What we would, I mean, we know we have some people with professional bartending experience who do frequently chime in. I don't know if any of them, maybe one or two people right now watching,
Mhm.
have bartender experience. Yeah, I don't think we're gonna explicitly say no pros.
Yep.
um, I think the pros will but honestly, the pros would make this a lot more fun too because we'll just get more variety and more
Yeah.
ideas. And
Right. Maybe.
this is a casual, non-professional thing. I mean, you're not. I don't
Yeah.
think you're going to be able to put this on your resume. I won the Show Tuesday home cocktail challenge, but who knows? You know,
Yeah. I
maybe it would
well.
be worth bragging points somewhere.
Yeah. Well, let's set a couple of guardrails. This has to be something that people can make in their home bar. All right.
Sure.
So if you're making tinctures or you're making
Reduce.
macerations of things that people can't easily do at home, don't do that.
Yeah,
That's where you go from home bartender to professional, and we're
no
not.
rotovap. Like, yeah, come
Yeah.
on. If you've got access to a lab, that's not fair.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, yeah, that's kind of maybe that's the one thing we should put as a guardrail because people make their own, syrups from some herb that you can't get in 95% of the world or something like that. That's not going to work for the home bar. So let's stick to ingredients you would expect to find in your home bar or that you could easily make. Like you can make simple syrup, right? That's obviously in, and you could throw a common herb into it maybe, like I don't know, that sounds awful, but like a rosemary simple syrup. You can find rosemary growing on the side of the road all over the world. So, um, but yeah, let's try to keep that side of it maybe a little bit simple for the home bar. That's maybe that puts some handcuffs on the pros if they do decide to enter. Right?
Or
Let's say
the yeah, the very very experienced hobbyists. Sure.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
yeah, I don't want to put I mean, these handcuffs are made of wet noodles. You can break them. I mean, we're not going to put out a rule book or anything.
yeah,
But just in the spirit of like keeping this a home cocktail challenge, at least in the way that Stephen and I make cocktails at home, we aren't doing anything that takes that none of the ingredients in our cocktails takes more than how many days to prepare. I mean, I guess that's the thing. Like more than a week to prepare.
Oh no, not even
Anything that
that.
goes, not even that. I
No,
don't
no, no. I
take
think
anything
it's
that I
well.
can't do the
Think about
night
it this way.
before.
Think about it this way. When we judge, we're going to be in a bar that doesn't have anything prepped.
Access to any of this stuff. Yeah.
Right, we're
So
gonna walk into a friend's bar. We don't even know which bar yet, but we're gonna walk into a friend's bar and we're gonna say, okay, we need you to make these 5 drinks for us, and you need to try them too. And then, you know, so if he doesn't have those things in his bar, you're disqualified. If it's not ready to go, we'll bring the shochu. We'll make sure that he's got the shochu he needs. But all the other ingredients have to be something that we would find in a cocktail bar in Japan, or if for some reason Christopher are in the States when we do this. It's probably gonna be here in Japan now.
most likely here, but yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
So
so yeah, again, this is casual. It's non this is
yeah,
informal. It's
yeah,
an amateur home cocktail challenge.
yeah,
And amateur obviously can be very, very professional sometimes. So we get that and we welcome it.
yeah.
Just as long as we can replicate this stuff at a reasonable level. That's, I guess, where the murky line exists. Again, March 1st is the cutoff. We're excited to see what you guys bring to the challenge.
Yep.
And it'll be good for us too because it'll force us to come up with something new. I'm already starting to think about how I can play. I've got a bunch of awamori that I need to kind of run through, and making cocktails is a good way to do it.
Sure. Maybe you could
Um,
batch if maybe what we do, Christopher, if we can get this all sorted before the Hanami, maybe whatever the winner is you batch it, and that's one of the things you serve at your shochu corner.
yeah, unfortunately, I'll be in Okinawa at that time. So,
Maybe it's my job to bring it.
wow. All right. Yeah, good luck with
Well,
that.
that's a maybe. That's a maybe. That's a
That's a
maybe.
very big maybe. Yeah. So, all right.
Yeah.
I feel like this needs to be codified. We're going to repeat this information on
Yep.
the Japan Drinks Discord channel. We'll repeat it on Twitter.
Yep.
And just to make sure that the information is out there. And
Yep.
we'll encourage people to come back and watch episode 134 if they need to any
Yep.
more detail.
We'll probably have to come back and watch it to see what rules we set because a lot of this was off the cuff right now.
Not
So
untrue.
as you can see, it's our first. It's a homemade home cocktail challenge.
Yep.
We came up with on our. And if any of you are not on our Japan Drinks Discord, hit us up. Hit me up. I think it's probably easiest to hit me up because I made the Discord server for Japan Drinks. But it's a place where we've got a bunch of people, got over 200 members now, I think, who love all kinds of Japanese alcohol, craft beer, sake, Japanese wine,
Mm-hmm.
obviously shochu, awamori, whiskey, everything. We get people talking about Japanese rum, Japanese gin, all kinds of stuff. So if you're interested, just hit me up on Twitter or Instagram, and I'm happy to send you an invitation.
Yeah.
Yep.
Absolutely.
It's a nice little community we got there.
Last banner of the day, newly opened or bottle kill. I've got a couple of bottle kills. Maybe
All
I
right.
can
You
I can start.
you
I
were
think
busy
I
this holiday season.
Yeah, I mean I think I used these as a newly opened not too long ago. A couple of Komaki brands
Oh, yep. We
that
knocked them both out.
are quite different. Komaki, of course, being a very well regarded sweet potato shochu distillery in kind of central north in Kagoshima.
Yep.
And so I got through their Isho Silver and then their name brand Komaki. And very, very different. I think personally, I think I preferred their
Komaki.
this one.
Yeah, the standard.
Yep, the standard a little bit more. But this is probably more popular. The silver and the bronze are very well regarded and sought after, and not easy to find
Yeah. We actually
necessarily.
don't talk about Komaki as much as we should, honestly. And I feel like partly it's because I haven't been to the distillery in a while. And I think the last time I went, it was even just a very, very quick visit. But the first time I went, I got the full tour, spent some time with them, that sort of thing. And then the last time I went was probably 3 or 4, 5 years ago, and it was really like a quick in and out, say hello. There wasn't
Yeah.
not much time for talking. So yeah, we gotta give them some more love. And that
Yep.
Isho, I think, is available in the U.S. in very limited quantities. At least
may
it
be.
was pre-pandemic. I think it was at Umami Mart and at Shochu and Tapas Aya in New York, which is closed. I think they were the only places in the States that were authorized to sell that brand. Not that that's actually legal, but you know,
Yeah,
I
they
think
they were the only ones who could get an allocation.
yeah, the importer brought in very, very little of the product. But yeah, they're the makers of. Are they still making Beni Iko and Ikomo? They still
Yeah.
that used to be contract distilled by them
Yep.
for Takara. So I guess they're still doing that. So the 100% sweet potato shochus that are available in the States
Are
also
made
by
by a
Komaki.
really well regarded distillery.
Yep.
Which is
That's right.
which is I don't know if I believe they're still doing that. I cannot verify.
Yep.
It usually says on the bottle,
Yeah. Yep.
although that's not required by my understanding.
No, it's not. So this is a newly opened this bottle of Goro. I picked that up to play with the cocktails, but I've also been enjoying it. Oyuwari, on the rocks, twice up, etc. It's one of those almighty shochus. It just plays every way you drink it. It's nice.
Yeah.
So really like it. I think that's just hit the U.S. I don't know if it's in shops yet, but I know that it just landed. So it is available in the States from Honkaku Spirits.
Yeah, it's a decent one. And it's
Yep.
one that's very difficult to find over here. It's quite difficult to find. Well, you can't find it in Tokyo. I would have to mail order it. So if you see it, you try. It's one of those that you see down in Kyushu. You see it, you're like, oh, you have Goro. I'm definitely having a glass of that.
Yep. Yeah, this is the brand new packaging. Actually, I don't think that I'd actually seen this bottle in the wild, and it's hard to see the gold for the name, but it's got Koshiki Island in blue.
Yeah.
So I guess they use the blue because of the ocean, but and the paper's got a nice texture. It's almost like, I don't know, it's almost like snakeskin belly. Like
Huh.
it's got a little marbling bubble. You can't see it at all, I'm sure, on the screen, but it's actually quite a pretty label. I love this form factor for the bottle. Um, so yeah, it's good stuff. And yeah, that was my. And I also newly opened the 2022 Komagatake.
Komagatake. Oh,
Komagatake. That was my first drink of the new year. So
nice.
last year's
Baller.
edition. Yeah.
Excellent.
So cool.
All right.
Yeah, good stuff.
I think that's it with. Oh, sorry. Yours was a newly opened. Mine was a
That's
bottle
right.
kill. So, but we should have used
Yeah.
both of those. But anyways, let me clear this off and say to everybody out there, thank you for joining us once again. This was a long one, 50 minutes.
It
Holy
was.
crap! We
Yeah.
haven't done one of these for a while. But you heard it here first. The home cocktail challenge is in effect for
Yeah.
shochu and awamori. More
Yep.
information to come. We'll put it on Discord. We'll put it on Twitter
Yep.
and invite entries.
Yep.
But we're looking forward to seeing what you can do.
Yep. Let's say you said March 1st in Japan. Let's do it March 1st Pacific. Midnight March 1st
Okay, give
Pacific.
everybody a shot same
Yep.
day. So once
That'll.
March 1st is done everywhere in the world,
Yep. Yeah. If you
then
haven't seen any by
then
then,
that's it.
you have to
Yeah,
wait for the
wait
next
until
challenge.
another season when we who knows, maybe we'll get so many entries that we need to do this a couple times a year. We'll do this is the winter version and whatever. Let's not get ahead of
Yeah.
ourselves. No, we're
Not
doing
yet.
this
Not yet.
once. We're doing this
Right.
once, guys. Get your entries
Yes,
in
sir.
now.
Yep.
All right.
All right.
And so thank you. And we'll be
Yep.
back next week for episode 135. To all of you out there around the world, whichever time zone you happen to be in right now, thank you very much from both of us. We really appreciate it. We're excited to start another year with you and to spread the word of these amazing drinks to new ears, new bellies. So from both of us here in Japan, a very hearty and heartfelt kanpai.
Kanpai.